Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Clap along if you...
Good afternoon. Welcome to Job with John. I'm John Reyhons. I'm the General Manager of the community. And thanks for joining us today. This afternoon I have two special guests. I have Paula Ferguson, the President of our HOA Board, and I also have Brian Quillen, our Senior Director of Community Service. And I invited both Paula and Brian today because oftentimes we get phone calls, we'll get some emails or comment cards with questions. And there's a lot of questions out there as we begin to reopen certain amenities within our community. So I thought I'd take a moment to have you come and join me today, and we'd answer some of the top questions that we get frequently. So I thought I'd go ahead and kick it off myself with some questions about fitness, as well as pickleball and tennis courts. A question I hear a lot is, will we be able to increase the amount of participants over fitness center? And the answer is eventually yes. Here it is Wednesday. We've only been open for 2 days. And I want to thank Jeff Vance, our Director of Fitness and Wellness, and his entire team for doing a great job with the planning, the organizing, the sanitation, and the reservation process to get our members into the fitness facility. And so far it's gone very well. We will look at that down the road, but to answer that question, let's get the first week under our belt, and then we'll do an examination of not only how many participants, but another question that I'm often asked is, will we be able to expand the hours? Well, we'll be looking at that as well based on the number of participants that we have and the availability of equipment. And then another question that I've been asked on occasion is why, when we reopened the courts, did we change it to our reservations? And I thought that was a great question. And it's interesting as I look back, 2.5 months ago when we shut down due to the coronavirus, I can't tell you the number of calls and comment cards and emails we got about, geez, we've got to get these courts open, peace of mind, great exercise, and we sympathize with everybody. And so when we were thinking about opening, our immediate thought was, wow, with all this interest in tennis and pickleball, we're going to have a lot of play. So why don't we shorten the hours to accommodate more people? And also, we were reopening in summertime, which meant the cooler hours were going to be in the morning. So that's how we came to the decision. The fact of the matter now is the volume is relatively light. So going back to the question is, does an hour work? Our thought is we're going to keep it at an hour, but I'll tell you this, if you're playing pickleball or tennis, feel free to stay a little later if there's not a reservation behind you, or if another court is available and we'll be able to accommodate your request for more time to play. Paula, if you don't mind, let me ask you one of your questions. We've got some feedback regarding recreational play at the softball field. Can you tell us when we might be able to open up down there?
Well, I think that we are certainly considering that possibly with the Senior Softball National Organization coming up with some restrictions and regulations dealing with social contact, because the game of softball, people may not realize, but every place that you have on the softball field demands contact. We have the dugout, we have the managers always meeting before the game, we have the umpires, and then of course we have everybody out there batting with the same bats and everything. So I think with the regulations and the restrictions that our senior softball group has put together in talking to the softball board, I think that that's going to be coming very shortly, and that there'll be some type of open, organized play soon, as long as the board indicates that they will abide by these restrictions. So we will see that very soon.
Thank you, Paula. Great answer. You certainly have a lot of experience and sound like an aficionado when it comes to softball, and I know you spent, seems like your entire career in that curriculum.
Well, I did play as a senior woman softball player when I got to Sun Lakes here back a few years ago. I haven't played in the last few years, but it was a wonderful opportunity. I never thought at the age of 55 that I'd be playing softball. So I appreciate the game, I enjoy the game, and I think it's a wonderful amenity that we offer here at Iron Oaks.
That's terrific. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Brian, a question for you regarding pools. I know we've opened some of the pools, but obviously we do get a few questions about when are the rest of the pools going to open, and some questions about food and beverage, and will the furniture ever come back into play?
There's a couple of things that go into answering those questions. They are excellent questions. You know, you're right. We have gotten that question asked quite a bit this week, especially since we opened the kids' pool last Friday. But there's a couple of things at play. One is staffing. To open up the rest of the pools, we'll need to increase the staffing levels to be able to have people there to sanitize. And these two play hand in hand to sanitize the furniture, the entrance points, all those different areas. Until we can get those staffing levels up to the proper levels, we won't be able to open all the pools. The other big thing with the furniture is staffing, to be able to have somebody there to sanitize, because the furniture presents a potential liability issue for the association, where if somebody would sit on a piece of furniture, it doesn't get sanitized in between, and they have left whatever it may be on the chair, somebody comes directly behind them and sits down, and they would, God forbid, get sick, then we would potentially be liable for something, and we'd hate to put the association in that position. So I'd rather err on the side of caution and take it as slow as possible in getting these pools open and getting them open the right way, rather than rush to doing it.
Right. Well, thank you, Brian. I appreciate the update on that. I get a lot of questions regarding food and beverage. A question I do hear a lot is, when are the banquet rooms going to open here? I don't have any guidance yet from the governor. All we know at this point is no groups greater than 10, so that pretty much rules out all banquet activity. If I were to guess when we may be able to start hosting banquets again, I would say sometime this fall, September, October might be the first time we see some sort of activity in those areas. I'm also asked about, what about Ironwood and Grill on the Green? When's that going to open? And that's a great question. I enjoy that food and beverage operation. I know we got a lot of folks that live over at Ironwood that would love to see it open. But quite frankly, we're not in a position to at this point. Our food and beverage is somewhat slow at this time. We're seeing a little increase at Stone and Barrel, some increase in our takeaway food service program, but we just don't have the volume yet to open up Ironwood. So I don't have a good answer for you, but I can tell you this: if we were to open up Ironwood, it would exacerbate the amount of financial loss that we're having in food and beverage, just because there's obviously some nervousness about people dining out. All right, Paula, back to you. Some questions that have come our way deal with arts and crafts and when that area of the community might be open to our members.
I know we have discussed the different arts and crafts facilities and what the need would be to open those up, and also what type of cleaning staff we would need to be able to open up all of those different rooms. And I think possibly we can see maybe further discussion after the middle of this month, and hopefully maybe able to open up some of those rooms, but also we will not be able to sanitize those rooms the way we need to sanitize them, so it might have to be, at your own risk that you would use those rooms if we do open them up. And we'll definitely have signage on the doors that this is your responsibility, and it will be at your own risk if you go in and utilize the different areas.
That's great. Sounds like a wonderful protocol for that area. And I do want to remind all of our residents here regarding the coronavirus. It's not out of the state of Arizona yet. And as I was reading the other day, it's my understanding through various experts that map these various stages of the coronavirus, we aren't going to see the peak here in Arizona for another 2 or 3 weeks. So we're not out of the woods yet. So please understand, we are still being cautious and mindful of our residents and their well-being. Brian, tell us a little bit about what's going on.
Excuse me a minute, John. I was just looking at the statistics this morning, and I think going along with that, I think, you know, we kind of get in a comfort zone, and we kind of forget that we still are fighting this invisible virus here, and we want to get back to normal, but we can't do that yet. We have close to 100 people dying here in this state as of right now, and we are still going up. We are not starting to go down. So please just remind yourself, anytime you go out, the virus is there, and whoever you're talking to could have that virus.
That's a great point. Thank you, Paula. Brian, would you mind giving us an update on what's going on with community landscape?
Sure, be glad to. We are in the process of working on tree trimming. If anybody's looked around the community this week, you've seen the big trucks out there with the chippers out there. Tree branches being trimmed off, doing tree trimming both internally and externally. Right now they're out on Almost School Road removing some dead, much needed plant material that needs to be gone, so that'll be removed by the end of today, by the end of the week, all the way across Riggs Road. Weed spraying is an ongoing daily thing. If you look around, you see the blue dye out all over the place for the weeds that have been sprayed. But as always, you know, they're not perfect. They're not going to get everything. Let us know if you see something, and they'll get over there and get it taken care of. Along the roadways, you know, they did a great job getting that cleaned up from what we saw last fall and into the wintertime, and have had very little, you know, regrowth in those areas. So it's been great. Blue Star Landscaping has made a change in their supervision here on property, which I think has made a great difference to the team and the way the property is looking. Annual flowers have been changed out. We will be installing some annual flowers at the Sun Lakes Gate, which is not a regular thing, but we'll be creating an annual flower bed at the Sun Lakes Gate, which will even it out and make it equal with the other gates in terms of look and appearance. And then next week or the week after, we'll start trimming palm trees, and we'll stop our annual summer snowstorm that occurs in Sun Lakes every year. So.
All right, terrific. Thanks for that update, Brian. I've also, talking about Ironwood, down at Ironwood we do a number of tabletop games, whether it's trivia, bingo, Texas Hold'em down there, which are all great games, and our members, our residents really enjoy that aspect, that component down there at Ironwood, very well attended. Unfortunately, that's still put on hold until we can reopen Ironwood, but we do hope to get you back soon for those games. Paula, let me ask you another question about some trips and billboard concerts and when we might see some activity in that arena.
Oh, I think we have a young lady by the name of Karen, that's the director of activities, that has been working hard. And I communicated with her here this morning, and I said, do you have anything planned? And she gave me a list of all types of activities that are just in the waiting room. And once we can open those doors, watch out. I think she's got some line dancing classes scheduled. She's got a movie that by Zoom you can watch, and that movie is Life Well Lived, and it's talking about some individuals that are of the age of our community, and I think is an excellent community film. Also, she is saying that she's got concerts already scheduled, and hopefully maybe once the weather cools off, we can have a concert outside. And I'm looking forward to maybe having something like that. So I think we're going to see some different things that's going to be coming out of our activities department because of this virus. And she said that, you know, she's been talking to the bus company and they're putting in some plexiglass or something. So I think just wait, once her little online schedule comes out, there's gonna be wine and dine. I can't wait for it. She has been working hard, and I think, you know, the golf cart van activity was so popular. She's got some of those scattered in all throughout the year coming. So we're going to be all right as far as our activities coming in this new year.
That's great. Thanks for the update, Paula, and we're excited to be hosting those upcoming events, and Karen Demetra does a great job for all of our members, keeping them very active here. On the financial side, I'm often asked, John, how has the coronavirus impacted the club from a financial standpoint? It's been difficult. I won't kid you. For the past 2.5 months, operationally, our revenue stream has dropped by almost $500,000. So when people often will say, how come you don't open up this, or why don't you provide this service, there's a cost to it. And we have to weigh that between keeping our members active and engaged and healthy, as well as the financial component. They all tie together. The good news is we're doing our best financially. We're watching our expenses prudently. We don't make a lot of quick decisions, but just keep in mind that we have to be very much aware that when we do add a new service or make a change, that usually impacts the finances of the club, so we have to be careful in how we manage that. Also, on occasion, I'll hear from a member or two about, hey, John, this has been closed or that's been closed. Do I get a refund? Unfortunately, the answer is no, but we've been very upfront about that with all the residents. We said at the onset when we had to close down 2.5 months ago, we said we just were not in a position to financially remunerate any resident because of the closures. And if you think about it, if we did that, that could cause or trigger, and I hate to say this, some sort of assessment to our members or increase in dues, and that's the last thing we want to do. So I appreciate everybody's patience and understanding that we're all in this together. We apologize for having to close some of our amenities, but it was a requirement. But we're opening up now. We're doing it in good stride, and by helping us financially, you can help the entire community get to our financial goal. And just a few final notes with Job with John. Don't forget, this is the week we'll be sending out your biannual assessments, so you can expect your assessment via email or in your mailbox. Also, speaking of food and beverage, we've got lots going on. Chef Jeff has specials every night with fresh fish, and also the early bird from 2 to 5. And this week's special is sausage campanella with garlic toast and a Caesar salad for $12. So smoking deal there. And don't forget about our happy hour.
Yes.
Every day of the week from 2 to 6 with all your specialty drinks on sale. So look forward to seeing you. But before I go, we have a special guest. You may recognize this young lady, Trish.
Hi, everybody. Miss you. I mean it. Let's hope you're all well and safe.
Trish, thanks for popping in.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us with Job with John. Stay well.
Because I'm happy. Clap along.